So let's talk about this Minnesota Vikings team heading into the 2022 season. So looking back last year, 2021, the Vikings go 8-9. The thing is, when you look at the Vikings last season, 8 of their games were within single digits. And so I think that if a few different things would have gone their way, that could have been a much better looking team than I'd say below average 8-9 record. And so even though the Vikings weren't ahead over 500, they're pretty close. There was a pretty small margin when it comes to, I think, being a much better team. If in a few game situations things were a little different, that could have been a 10-win team, which I think definitely shifts the perspective a little bit about the Minnesota Vikings. But now looking at 2022, of course, the biggest change, losing Mike Zimmer, bringing in Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell, who I think is going to bring a big shift to this team. You can already see from lots of the players' interviews since he's been hired here that there's sort of this like new energy in Minnesota. There's a new thing going on there with the new coach, a new young coach at 37 years old, offensive-minded coach who just won a Super Bowl. And I think when you have that, when you've just won a Super Bowl and you come into a new place, I feel like you sort of bring some of that energy with you. And so I am a Packers fan. So speaking on this, I'm not very excited to say this, but I honestly do think this Vikings team is going to be a lot better coming into this next season. When you look at last year, the Vikings had a pretty below average defense, 24th ranked defense in the NFL. Offense, on the other hand, a little bit better at 13th overall. And I think when you look at having Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, there are lots of solid players on the Vikings offense. And I do feel like Kirk Cousins, he gets a bad rap, honestly. Like last year, he got 33 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, probably top 3rd quarterback in the NFL last season. And for whatever reason, Kirk Cousins just gets that bad rep, which I don't know if he completely deserves all of that. I think he's much better than lots of people sort of see him as. And so I think when you factor in an offensive-minded coach coming in, a young guy who everyone seems to be, coming around and believing in, when you add him to this offense, I think they're going to be just as good, if not better, coming into this next season. And then on the defensive side of the ball, looking at a few of the key additions for the Vikings. First off, stealing Zadarius Smith from my Packers team, which last year he had a back injury, only played in like 1 or 2 games. And so it's not a huge loss to the Packers just because he didn't play last year and they had Rashawn Gary really step up and be a monster with Zadarius Smith leaving, which I definitely think helped this Packers defense, because if Zadarius would have been injured and Rashawn Gary didn't take that massive leap forward to become a monster, the Packers defense would have struggled a lot more last year. So the Packers were willing to let go of Zadarius. I think it saved us somewhere from like $12 to $15 million. The Vikings, of course, decided to come in and bring him in. And when the Vikings play week 1, Packers-Vikings, I just don't want to see Zadarius Smith come in and sack Aaron Rodgers, because seeing Zadarius on the Packers, becoming a fan of Zadarius, to then see him go to Minnesota and sack Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to see that. So hopefully that doesn't take place. But because the Vikings have added Zadarius and they have Daniel Hunter back, who missed a lot of time last year, a good bit amount of time last year on the defense, I think when you have those 2 guys there on the outside, that's going to make this defense that much better. There are questions to, can Zadarius Smith get back to his former self? Like, has this back injury made him less of a player than he used to be? And time will tell. Well, time will tell with that to see if Zadarius can get back to his former dominant self, which I expect him to be able to play at a high level. We'll see if he can stay healthy and not get injured, considering he is getting, a little bit up there in age. And then you also look at the fact, a few other additions for the Vikings, some in the draft, Andrew Booth Jr., Lewis Cine as well. I do think this Vikings defense is going to be much better than 24th overall on the defensive side of the ball. And I think when you have an offense that's 13th overall, I think that's respectable enough to be a solid team. When your defense, though, is pulling you behind like that, it definitely makes it that much harder to win games and to, win in crucial situations. So I think just with the additions on defense, they're going to take a huge step forward there. So overall, when we look at the NFC North, okay, you may say I'm biased. I'm a Packers fan. I still think the Packers are going to win the NFC North. If you're a Vikings fan, maybe you think it's your year to come in and beat off the Packers, and maybe it is. I do think the Vikings will be better. I still think the Packers are going to be better than the Vikings, but I do think the Vikings could be, maybe like a 10-win team this year, 11-win team, because of the new additions here with the new coach. I do think it's going to make a difference there. And so we'll see. We'll see if the Vikings can knock off the Packers. I hope not. I hope that we can stay on top as long as Aaron Rodgers is here. But whenever Aaron Rodgers leaves, Vikings, there may be an opportunity to take the NFC North crown, because there is definitely going to be some uncertainty when Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay. Maybe it's Jordan Love who takes over. Maybe it's someone else. It's probably Jordan Love, unless Aaron stays for another 3 years. I hope Aaron Rodgers stays for 5-10 years. pulls a Tom Brady and plays for another, like, what, seven or 8 years if Tom Brady's 45 now. So who knows what's going to happen there, but I do think the Vikings are going to be much better. And the question I think I have in this title, which I'm just remembering now, is are they going to end their playoff drought, their 2-year playoff drought, haven't been to the playoffs in the past 2 years? And if they were, I will think they would be a wild card team because I do think the Packers are going to win the NFC North. And I think it's possible. I think it's possible that this Vikings team can make the playoffs. But I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about the Vikings heading into 2022. But if you guys have not subscribed and you want to see more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below. Drop a like on the video. Give me your comments in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next time.